The first time I met Bill was in 2007. My dear friend Liz and I made a road trip out here to Bisbee.
Let me go down as far as I can.
Yeah. And immediately when I met him, it was the vest he was wearing, it was his Stetson hat, it was his swagger, the way he walked down the street, the laugh that he greeted us with. We were just instantly, clicked. Bill was the first elder in my family to ever hand me a pipe, and it was a peace offering. It was a peace offering, and it you know, I know it's like such a small thing, but it's a really big thing because Bill, I felt like Bill accepted all of me. Like I could completely be at ease and be myself with Bill, and there was no, you should be doing anything different. It was just a full embrace of who you are and who you are right here in this moment. And I imagine that a lot of us have had that experience with Bill. Just such an open mind, such a curious person, always learning, always schooling everybody on local politics, global politics, neuroscience, quantum mechanics. Like, Bill was brilliant, intellectual, sharp, so kind, such a good friend. I loved his laugh. Bill had a big heart and had a big bite. And that's also what endeared me to him. And I think, it seems like Bill's circle of people, one thing we all have in common is what Karen likes to call oppositional defiance disorder. Bill was rowdy, and Bill was up in those protests, and he was the voice of the people. He cared about the border issues. He cared about how people are treated. He cared about the free park up the Gulch, where the free box up the Gulch, and when marginalized people were being marginalized, when they were being attacked, Bill was right there, and he stood up for what was right. He had a very clear knowing of what was right and wrong, and I loved that fire in him. He grew up in Detroit, River Rouge. He was proud of those roots, and he carried that with him. He was street. He knew the streets. He was a streetwalker, and I think because of that, he really found his people here in Bisbee. He found his home here in Bisbee, in the Gulch. He loved telling the history of the Gulch. He loved that he lived in the red light district. He loved that it was rowdy up there, and it was just so clear why he was here. Every time I came to visit him, and we'd walk down the Gulch and say hi to 10 people by the time we got into town. One of my another favorite memory was right here in this building, Bill's 80th birthday, 2 Decembers ago, and that song, One Foot in the Light, was playing, and I remember looking around, watching Bill being danced around the room by many women. Every time I talked to Bill on the phone, he was having a cigarette on his porch with another woman. And I don't want to speak for the fellows in the room, but if I could die with half of the ladies around me that Bill had around me, I'm going to die a happy man. Okay? He was so well taken care of by this community. I want to give a special nod to Karen and to Allison and to Andrew. When I came and visited and when I talked to Bill, it seemed like the three of you were really holding it down. And it was so sweet to know that you were here, because I cared so much about Bill, and the last few years were a little tough as his health declined. And so to know that he had this community and this team of people around him was really, it was relieving. Again, for me, it was relieving. For our family, it was relieving. And so I just want to say a special thank you to the three of you.
I'd like to thank everyone to welcome everyone. I'd like to welcome the friends and family of Bill Higgins today. The guest of honor is Daisy, who you hear, I don't know if everybody knows, but that was Bill's dog. The only dog allowed here today. The next thing we're going to do, I'm going to read a short piece that Bill wrote. I thought it kind of encapsulated who he was.
Daisy.
Snow fell overnight, and the mountains are covered with light. I'm playing gospel music this morning. Amazing grace. How sweet the sound. It is warm and cozy in my little miner's shack. My Portuguese water dog Lucy is asleep on the couch. I am drinking hot tea with milk and honey. Tibetan lamas with red robes are in town. They will whisper in your ear all day long for $100. Lunch is not included. They were walking up the canyon, red robes flowing, looking out of place when I pulled up alongside them in my pickup truck. I stopped my truck in the middle of the street and I jumped out. I was looking very southwestern in my Stetson hat and denim jacket. A moment's hesitation, a little uneasy. I gave them a quick gasso. I told them that we were having our weekly Zen sitting meditation in an hour, and they're welcome to come sit with us. I realized that we were not connecting. What does this cowboy want? I pulled out my copy of Dojin and that we read before each sit. As they read, their eyes lit up a bit. They smiled and said, "Oh yes, Zen. Yes, Zen." I told them I would love to have them come sit with us. They asked me where would it be. I gave them directions. They asked if I would be there. I said yes, I would. They were non-committal, but polite. We shook hands and parted. I was already starting to enjoy the look on the faces of the other Zen sitters. I could see these guys walking in and just blowing the locals away. But it was not to be. I guess the lamas weren't really looking for a meditation service. There would be no surprise on this night. After the sit, I told everyone what had happened between me and the lamas. It struck us as funny, and we all had a good laugh. Charles had seen some other religious orders in town earlier wearing their out-of-place in Arizona robes. I said that it looked like the town was filling up with nuts. Filling up, Charles said. Looks like it's overflowing to me. We all laughed again. We knew we were the real nuts, not the guys in the robes. It had been a good sit. A band had begun sitting up to play later that evening, and someone from the band had wandered in. He stood around for a while, embarrassed about disturbing us, but he could not leave right away, stunned by the presence of people doing nothing. Later, when I thought about the encounter with the lamas, I realized that something had happened on the road. A perfect moment took place. Every moment is a perfect moment, but this one was special. We touched hands. We touched hearts. We whispered in each other's ear. We whispered amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I
the way we became friends is that Bill was a Detroit steelworker, and I used to be married to a Chicago steelworker, and Noel had written a book about working in the steel mills in Chicago. And I was asked to review it, and so I gave it to Bill. And he fell in love with Noel and wrote a lovely blurb from the book, which I didn't think to bring with me. And from then on, we were friends. And I miss him horribly. So thank you.
My name is Liz. As Kyle mentioned, we met Bill when we were teenagers. And I wasn't very close with my grandparents, so Bill immediately became really important in my life. To date, I still think of Bill as one of the most important teachers in my life. And I feel so emotional. I can do it. Okay. Kyle mentioned that he felt really accepted by Bill, and that a lot of us probably had that experience. And I think it actually was probably a little bit more than that. For me at least, but probably for some of you, and that was that Bill celebrated my humanity. And I hadn't ever met an elder who looked me in the eye and was so excited about who I was. I didn't know what that felt like. And today, I'm a guardian. I have 2 teenagers at home. And I think so much about how I am as a parent today and how reflective that is of Bill and how he taught me how to interact with young people, because I think it's really easy as you get older to get cranky. And Bill was cranky, but in a good way, in a way we really liked. But when he met us at 17, at 18 years old, and looked us in the eye and thought we could change the world, and then I saw him do that over and over again. And then he met my kids a few years ago and thought the world of them. And it just fundamentally changed how I thought about myself and how I could interact with the world, because something happened inside of me when this person who I loved and respected looked me in the eye and had these dreams for me that he thought I could accomplish.
I'm Susie Stein. I'm Bill's niece. And I just wanted to say I'm really grateful to have had the relationship I had with Bill, which is, I understand, very rare. Someone that you can tell anything to without shame, without judgment, who responds with care and love, concern. And one thing about Bill, which is so exceptional and something I try to learn from, is that he was really firm, he was really clear, and for me, he was really firm and clear that I was okay. And I feel sad because for people who never had that kind of relationship, and I'm grateful. And like Liz said as well, I hope to be able to keep learning from that experience and be a better parent, family member, friend, even colleague, maybe.
I'm just going to be real brief with this. Bill was my uncle. We shared a lot of things. We grew up in the same place. We shared the name. I'm sharing his jacket now for all of us to see. Similar to Kyle, when I was a teenager, I came out here to Bisbee to spend some time with Bill, and I remember getting off the plane in Tucson, and it was looked like the Marvel Man. He's got this jacket on, he's got a giant Stetson hat, one foot on the wall, just kind of waiting for me to get off the plane. Like Kyle said, I did want to say thank you to the community of Bisbee, because he had the best years of his life here, and that's not to take away from my aunts and my uncle and the family that he grew up with, but he really kind of bloomed and blossomed into an even better version of himself here in Bisbee. And I'm just thankful that we were all able to experience that one way or another, whether it was one time, 1,000 times, or whatever it was. So again, thank you to everybody who's here in this room, who's watching online, who knew Bill close or from afar. And thank you to Bill for making all of our lives a little bit easier, maybe a little bit more chaotic at some times, but for filling it with love.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Andrew. Many of you know me, some of you don't. For the Zoom people, Betty, Gloria, Jim, your family, and the friends watching, if you could see this crowd of beautiful faces here, and maybe you will. I'm going to keep this brief. We're all here to celebrate Bill's life. So let's stand up and give him a standing ovation.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy. One of my earlier memories of Bill followed me getting off the phone with my biological father, who was a person like a lot of people in the world who aren't able to connect on an emotional level. And I always felt really hurt and saddened. I felt really bad about some things as a kid due to that relationship. And I got off the phone and I was crying and I went into the bathroom. And Bill knocked on the door and he came in and he just held me. And he said, "No problem, Amy, I'm your daddy Bill." And that's how it was. He came into my life at a very important time, and I've learned many things from him, as we all have. One of the things, I don't know what I'm saying. I have a couple notes, but I'm just going to talk for a minute and leave. But I think that I've learned about presence, generosity. He taught me about perseverance. He taught me, despite how he's kind of like, he can, start riots and all that, he's into routine as well. It was 7 o'clock on a Thursday night, he was sitting. It was Wednesday at 7 in the morning, or 8, he was meeting Karen and going to mornings. Like, he had routine and it was good for him. And I struggled with routine in my life, and he would encourage that, and it helped me to continue to put one foot in front of the other, and while doing so, practice being present with myself, really importantly, and with others. I learned about love. I learned about fear. We talked a lot about how we engage in life and with other people, how we're impacted by others and how we impact them, and the power of words and lack of words, and touch that has been referenced, and that a single moment can change a life. I'm also so grateful for the people in his life in Bisbee. I spoke to Bill every evening for about the last 3 years of his life, and we emailed every morning. So I heard about who was sitting on his porch, what was going on in Bisbee, what he ate, everything, and he knew everything about me as well, and I cherish that time. He's helped carry me through life. He helped me get into sobriety along with my mother. I think in many ways Bill saved my life, if not in every way.
I don't have anything prepared, but I kind of wanted to come in on what others have said. There's a saying in medicine that your patient won't remember all the things you tell them, all the instructions that you give them, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And I think of the time sitting on Bill's front porch and the stories he told me and laughing, and the great story, which I hope somebody would share, but of how he became to practice Zen Buddhism, the time he almost killed his teacher, the stories of the ladies he took care of on the streets of Detroit back in the day, and I wish I remembered his wisdom. I remember the overreaching thing, but I don't remember the details. What was the name of that Zen teacher? What were the names of those ladies? I think it was Sally and Betty, but I'm not really sure. But what I remember is the way I felt, and the way I felt with Bill is that I knew, as many others in this room, that I was loved. There was always this feeling of unconditional, positive regard. And I remember one time when I had behaved very badly and done something that I regretted immediately. And I went and I told Bill. I was like, oh, did this. And Bill looked at me, gazed at me. He was looking at me, not through me, really seeing me. And he said, oh, Allison, you did that. And I said, yeah. And then there was just not any change in the feeling that I had with him. I knew I was loved. And when you feel that, and it's only, it's a rare thing. It frees you to be who you are. You don't have to pretend anymore. So those moments on the front porch with Bill, that's really what I remember. I wish I'd listened more carefully and had the details of those stories, but what I'll treasure is the feeling of being loved. And I know there's so many people in this room that have the same thing, and I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful to you, Bill, for showing me that.
This is called One Foot in the Light. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, and we really like Bill.
Today and they told me go away, but I can't and I won't, because we really don't belong. And I don't like her songs, but I will sing along until there's nothing wrong, wrong, wrong with one foot in the light. Just keep one foot in the light. Just keep one foot in the light outside. That's just where I'm at, I can't hide. They may say I lied, but it's true. I saw you in the shadow, you were gone. And I don't like your songs, but I will sing along until there's nothing wrong, wrong, wrong with one foot in the light. Just keep one foot in the light. Just keep one foot in the light. But I'll still sing along until there's nothing wrong, because there's nothing wrong. There's really nothing wrong, wrong, wrong. There's really nothing wrong, wrong, wrong. There's really nothing wrong. Just keep one foot in the light. Just keep one foot in the light.